When I was in grade 10, we had a new English teacher. His name was Mr. Harris. He was young and very handsome. Mr. Harris had dark hair and kind brown eyes. He was only 24 years old. All the girls at school liked him. During breaks, many girls walked past his classroom just to see him. Mr. Harris was very polite and friendly. Even the other teachers liked him. Some of the younger teachers often tried to talk to him, but he stayed focused on his work. I liked Mr. Harris too. I thought he was the best teacher ever. I never missed his class and always finished my homework, but I was a shy girl. While my classmates joked with him and asked silly questions, I stayed quiet. I just worked hard in his class and listened carefully. Sometimes I wore my favorite dress, hoping he would notice me. When he called on me in class, my heart would beat fast and my hands would shake, but I always tried to answer his questions well because I wanted to impress him. Mr. Harris often smiled and said, "Good job, Lily." Hearing that made me so happy. The whole year, I couldn't stop thinking about him. I even dreamed about him at night. One day, I found out he lived near my neighborhood. Sometimes I walked past his house, hoping to see him. If he was outside, he would smile and say hello. But if he was with friends, I felt jealous. When I moved to grade 11, something sad happened. Mr. Harris left the school for a new job in another city. I was heartbroken. I missed him so much that I even walked by his old house, but he wasn't there anymore. After some time, I started preparing for my university exams. I joined extra English classes. On my first day, I couldn't believe it. Mr. Harris was the teacher. I felt so happy to see him again. He smiled and said, "Welcome back, Lily." For 6 months, I worked hard in his class. I became one of his best students. Sometimes we stayed after class to talk. He asked about my plans, and I asked about his job. One day, he offered to walk me home. I was surprised, but happy. After that, he often walked me home. I felt like the luckiest girl in the world. We started spending more time together, walking in the park, watching movies, and talking for hours. I still remember our first kiss. It felt like a dream. I thought Mr. Harris was perfect. But one day, he told me he had a new job offer in another country. He had to move to the USA. I was heartbroken again. We promised to write letters. At first, we did, but over time, the letters stopped. I started college, and we lost touch. 8 years passed. One day, I found Mr. Harris on social media. I sent him a message, and he replied. We decided to meet at a cafe. I was so excited to see him again. When I saw him, I was surprised. He looked different. He was older, had gained weight, and his hair was starting to grey. We talked for hours, but I felt something had changed. He wasn't the same person I had loved as a teenager. After the meeting, I thought about him. I realised my feelings were gone. We grow up and our priorities change. But I smiled, remembering those days. He was my first love, and that's special. A week later, he sent me a message. "It was nice meeting you. I hope we can stay friends." I replied, "Thank you, Mr. Harris. It was nice seeing you too. I wish you all the best." We talked a little more, but I knew it was time to move on. One evening, I walked in the park near my house. It started to rain, and I remembered when Mr. Harris walked me home in the rain. I smiled and thought, life is like the rain. Sometimes sad, but it helps us grow. I still think of Mr. Harris sometimes, but now it makes me happy. He was a part of my story, but not the whole story. Life is full of surprises, and new dreams are always waiting.